I think the Bruins and the player had agreed on term, 3 years. But as Don Sweeney said yesterday, there was a gap, and there was a gap on AAV. And I don't think he was being asked to take a pay cut or anything like that, but I do think it was a sizable gap that they obviously could not bridge.
So did you hear that, Bruins fans? There was no pay cut involved. I know comprehension can be very difficult, but listen. Elliot Friedman, one of the most plugged-in insiders in the NHL, has stated that there was not going to be much of a pay cut, if any, to Brad Marchand, right? So can we please stop the narrative that the Bruins only offered him $3 million in 2 to 3 years per term? I mean, the cap was going up. I don't think the Bruins would have even asked him to take a pay cut, even though, in my personal opinion, they probably should have if they wanted to kind of build more talent around him. For whatever it was, the Bruins weren't able to agree on the exact cap hit. And personally, it would have been a mistake for the Bruins to give Brad Marchand at this point in his career a 3-year deal. I like to crack a little bit of jokes recently, take things a little bit, not too seriously, but genuinely, this is what I think about the situation. Brad Marchand was the captain of the Boston Bruins, even though necessarily I don't think he's the best for that role, but he was the captain. He was here for such a long time. He helped the Bruins win a Stanley Cup. He was a pivotal member of this team for a very long time and helped sustain a high level of success. What Brad Marchand has given the Bruins organization is nothing but hard work, dedication, and winning success. So I love the player. I loved what he helped do in a Spoked B. But let's just call it what it is. Father Time is undefeated unless you're Tom Brady. When you get older, you get a little bit slower. And with Brad Marchand having multiple surgeries, you could see a dip in his athleticism this season. And I know I'm going to have some mushmouth say, oh, he had 40-plus points, he still looks good. I mean, listen, Brad Marchand in certain situations, probably could be a top 6 guy, but he can't be the minute eater he used to be. If you have watched every single game and you have watched his play, he's not as shifty as he used to be. He's not as fast as he used to be. Now, he's still a very smart and crafty player, so he can still be very productive, but you're seeing him start to regress. Why would you lock yourselves in for a 3-year deal of more regression? Because Brad Marchand's gotten slower now. I cannot even imagine in a couple seasons from now how much more he will regress. This isn't to slander the player and what he's done. I'm talking about the player right now. I think the Bruins made a smart decision here. I think it would have been a mistake to sign him for 3 years. There has been so many legends that have been traded. Wayne Gretzky was traded twice. If Wayne Gretzky can get traded, anybody can get traded. And to me, the Bruins need to be concerned about the future and not placating the past. Zdeno Chara, I don't think people remember this. Like, Zdeno Chara did not retire as a Bruins, folks. That's not how this panned out. I mean, that just happened recently. I know, like, short-term memory loss is a thing in this current generation, but that just happened with a recent captain. He was let go. They didn't bring him back because they understood he's no longer the same player. And while Brad Marchand, I wouldn't say is the level of regression that Zdeno Chara was when he left, let's just be blunt, it's better to get away from a player a year early than a year too late. And I think with a 3-year deal, it would have been 2 years too late. I love the player. I love what he's done. I'm hoping he has a great run with Florida. I'd love to see him win another Stanley Cup for how much he's given the Bruin organization. But can we stop with the pink cat screaming about, I'm no longer a Bruins fan because they traded Brad Marchand? Have you not been a fan of this team longer than the last 15 years? Have you not seen the early 90s and 2000s? And then fans older than that have seen in the early 90s and the 80s how things worked out? Players move. Players get traded. It's a business at the end of the day. And the Bruins should be in the business of winning and trying to set up this team for long-term success. And hey, I'm hoping the Bruins show me more of that 4-0 win in Tampa. I liked what I saw. The team was a lot faster considering the players they had in the lineup. I just want hustle, effort, and dedication to defense. And against the Tampa Bay Lightning, they showed it. It's one game. I'm not going to jump out the window and say that's going to be how they play every single night. But I think it just didn't work out with Brad Marchand. So you can be upset. You can be frustrated. But realize this happens to so many legends and so many great players To think that Brad Marchand be exempt from being traded because he's done so much for this organization when, again, Wayne Gretzky, Mark Messier, like you've had absolute Hall of Famers. I mean, Ray Bourque, if you want to stay within the same organization, even though the Ray Bourque situation was different because they wanted to get him a Stanley Cup championship before his career was over. But legends have been dealt. I mean, this is nothing insane. But, yep, just felt like kind of talking about some of the asinine things I've seen from some Bruins fans. Like, I'm no longer a Bruins fan. Give trade. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. Really? You're not going to be a Bruins fan because they traded some players because the team wasn't good? Jesus fucking Christ.